There will be those that debate that former President Barack Obama going out to campaign for the midterm elections will be good or bad for the Democrats. The fact of the matter is that in one of his last interviews as president, he did on this show with me, and he said that if Donald Trump were to be elected, that it would be the beginning of those that would try to reverse everything he being Barack Obama, did as president, from the Affordable Care Act to criminal justice reform to climate change and on and on. Not only is Barack Obama, in my judgment, the best one to go out and challenge this age of Trump and those that have empowered and enabled Trump in the Congress and the Senate, he has a personal obligation to try and save what he did and to salvage the legacy of the age of Obama that gave millions health care and led to criminal justice reform and commutations. So it's a little deeper than just the midterms. It's about history. Will Obama help save what Obama did? And many of us supported him in doing it. That's what you're looking at. That does it for me. Thanks for watching. Up next, my colleague, Alex Witt.
Hey, Rev, it's been good to look at you the last hour. You know, we're going to have that conversation that you talked about, that debate on the pros and cons. And also, I'm just going to say, isn't it somewhat disheartening that President Obama had that clear of a crystal ball as to what a President Donald Trump would do with all of his actions, gotta say. All right, thank you so much, Rev. We'll look forward to seeing you back here in the studio. Meantime, good morning to all of you. I'm Alex Witt here at MSNBC World Headquarters in New York. 9 o'clock here in the East, 6 a.m. out West. And here's what's happening. Never. The Vice President, when asked about invoking the 25th Amendment on President Trump, and his response to people suggesting he wrote to the New York Times op-ed. He's back, and he's pulling no punches in his first few public appearances.
The politics of division and resentment and paranoia has unfortunately found a home in the Republican Party.
And there's more. Reaction to President Obama's full-throated attack on the GOP and President Trump. A new book about an old football league and the story of how it came crashing down. At the center of that, Donald Trump. Plus talk of the town and the land, a controversial ending to what could have been a historic championship, what you might have missed, next. But we begin with a White House at war with itself as the hunt for the anonymous op-ed writer reaches a fever pitch. The administration facing its own crisis this morning, with Vice President Pence saying whoever wrote the editorial should resign, calling it deceitful, un-American, and an assault on our democracy, while denying he had ever engaged in a discussion to invoke the 25th Amendment and oust the president, as the op writer has claimed.
One of the claims made in the op-ed is that there had been discussion of invoking the 25th Amendment to even remove the president from office. Have you ever been part of a conversation about that?
No, never. And why would we be?
And the denial comes as Republicans openly fret their hold over Congress, that it could all be gone come November. As Democrats look to former President Obama in a bid to mobilize voters with less than 60 days to go now before the midterms. NBC's Jeff Bennett, he's standing by just post at the White House for us. Jeff, with a good Sunday morning to you, my friend. Let's get a sense of what's happening there on this Sunday morning.
Good morning, Alex. Well, President Trump is on the defensive across multiple fronts. White House staffers are trying to do damage control over Bob Woodward's new book, which paints a picture of chaos in the West Wing. Then there's this anonymous op-ed in the New York Times serving up a scathing indictment of President Trump. Add to all of that, former President Barack Obama back on the campaign trail, criticizing Trump while urging Democrats to get out and vote. Now, Mr. Obama is expected to campaign for Democrats this fall in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Illinois, but he kicked things off yesterday with a rally in California.
Good to be back. I love you too.
Obama back in the arena. Former President Barack Obama in Anaheim, California, headlining his first campaign rally of the 2018 midterms to help Democrats take back the House.
We have a chance to restore some sanity in our politics.
The former president, echoing that stinging critique of President Trump and the Republican Party, delivered a day earlier.
If we don't step up, things can get worse.
At the White House, President Trump spent much of Saturday at his private golf course, uncharacteristically quiet on Twitter after railing this week against that New York Times op-ed written by an anonymous senior administration official. The unnamed author leveling a scorching takedown of Mr. Trump while raising alarms about the president's fitness for office.
When you have somebody where it is anonymous and you take a look at what's going on, that's a really unfair situation.
President Trump, like his predecessor, is hitting the campaign trail too this coming week. The president hoping his Supreme Court pick, Brett Kavanaugh, will help energize Republican voters, expecting a Kavanaugh confirmation to catapult the GOP to victory come November. After his contentious Senate hearing, Democrats are still outraged over the lack of public access to thousands of documents related to Kavanaugh's record.
I'm releasing committee confidential documents. Mr. Chairman.
But since Senate Republicans could approve him without any help from Democrats, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says it's a sure thing. Kavanaugh will get confirmed.
Any doubt in your mind about that result?
None whatsoever.
Now, the Senate Judiciary Committee could vote on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination as early as this week. Republicans want to confirm him in time for the new Supreme Court term that begins on October 1st. Now, as for President Trump, Alex, in a tweet last night, the president said that Democrats are now going crazy, as he put it, since he says Democrats know they can't beat him in the 2020 presidential election. So far, nothing more from the president about that New York Times op-ed he railed against last week. Alex?
I don't know. I think we need to get through the 2018 midterm before we start talking about 2020, but that's just me. Thank you very much, Jeff, for that from the White House. Joining me now, Aisha Raska, White House reporter at NPR, and Alex Seitzwald, NBC News digital reporter. Big welcome to you both. Ladies first here, Aisha, with you. How much is this op-ed occupying the minds, the focus of the White House, and then where do things stand in terms of figuring out who the writer is?
I don't know exactly where things stand. Clearly, the person hasn't been unmasked yet. What I think is happening with the White House is that they're trying to do this kind of to kind of quote the op-ed, do a two-track thing where you have the president kind of talking about this needs to be investigated and really being very upset and vocal about it. But then you have people like Press Secretary Sarah Sanders saying, why are you guys focused so much on this? And Kellyanne Conway saying, oh, you're focused on the identity of this person. You need to be worried about other things. I think ultimately what this op-ed does and what Woodward's book does is that it just lends to this picture that the White House is not running smoothly, that it is chaotic, and that it is dysfunctional, and that it just lends to that picture. And with this op-ed out there, you don't know what's going to come next. Are there other staffers who may decide to come out or do something anonymously or leak something? And you still have Omarosa Manigault Newman out there. So I think that what it lends to is just the kind of precariousness of the White House's situation right now.
Yeah, Omarosa, in fact, is going to be on my show at 1 o'clock today. So, Alex, look, the op-ed getting a lot of traction. Generally, it's a very fast-moving news cycle when it comes to covering this president. But yesterday, I spoke with former New York Times executive editor Howard Raines, who said this about it. Take a listen.
This op-ed, I believe, is going to serve as a catalytic role in bringing the country more broadly to the grips with what is going on. We have a Congress that is paralyzed and a White House that is destabilized and a president who does not believe in the constitutional role of a free press.
Based on your reporting, Alex, where do you put this op-ed in the broader context when you look at what's come out in Bob Woodward's Fear book, Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury, and, of course, Unhinged by Omarosa?
Well, Alex, it does feel like this might be somebody's making an indent in a new paragraph in the encyclopedia entry of the Trump administration with this op-ed. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily because of the content. We knew a lot of this from countless reports from anonymous officials, from books like Bob Woodward's and Fire and Fury before that. But I think what's really notable about this is that somebody felt they were able to do this, that somebody felt they needed to do this, that somebody inside the administration, currently working for the administration, not a former official, decided to go to the New York Times, Donald Trump's maybe least favorite, or one of his least favorite outlets in the world, and publish this anonymously. And here we are almost a week later, and they haven't been able to figure it out because there are so many possible suspects. There are so many people who it's plausible inside the administration would feel the willingness to do this. And that's, unheard of on many many levels in an administration. And I think that's what makes this different from just the reporting that we see in places like Bob Woodward's books.
Yeah, another unheard of aspect, Aisha. I mean, you heard the vice president deny even discussing the 25th Amendment. What do we know about the dynamic between Pence and the president right now? Does he have the president's confidence?
I would believe that Pence does have the president's confidence because Pence has been very loyal to the president publicly. He doesn't miss an opportunity to praise President Trump. He is just effusive in honoring Trump and making sure that he doesn't get out or doesn't get too much attention himself. So I think in that way, Pence has been a very good vice president for Trump and kind of fitting his personality. But it's never good when the vice president has to deny talking about the 25th Amendment. When you're answering those questions, that's not good for the White House.
Do you think it's unlikely, Aisha, that he wrote the op-ed or someone from his office wrote the op-ed? Because with these kinds of denials, if and when the author of the op-ed comes out, it would be really hard to rise above that.
I seriously doubt that the vice president wrote the article.